The Missouri House Ethics Committee met for the first time this year and this legislative session. On the agenda, the ongoing investigation into House Speaker Dean Plocher. Late last year, reports surfaced that he had used state reimbursements for his lieutenant governor campaign. He says the transfers were a clerical error and has returned the money. Plocher is also under scrutiny for questionable tactics in pursuing a state contract with a private software company and for abruptly firing multiple staffers and threatening the jobs of others. Committee member Richard Brown, a Kansas City Democrat, recused himself because of a conflict of interest since he is running for the same office.
But I do trust the chair and the committee in their findings and their investigative procedure. And so I am patiently awaiting, like the rest of the members of the House, to find out what the outcome of the investigation is.
The committee chair has not made any public comments about how the investigation is playing out, and it's unclear how long it will take to complete.